So yes, it does hold true that women are more exploited in cults than men. I believe this is because cults are patriarchal, and of course children are exploited the most. I also believe that gives us an interesting, different level of understanding, right? And we get this out of Black women writing, that the oppressed best understands the oppressor. And White Woman Whisperer and I have discussed this concept a lot on our podcast, Hey White Women. If you don't know about that, check it out. And it's something that made me realize that, and reading Ted Patrick's book, who was a Black man studying cults and deprogramming people from cults in the 70s. So bringing a bit of a different perspective as well, because otherwise it has mostly been defined by white Western academics. And he says in his book, Let Our Children Go, that women and children are always a servant class in cults, from what he has seen. And so, again, I believe that that is why, I've been asked about the male cult scholars, right? Like, how do I like the bite model? And honestly, it's like, I've never used it because I found the models by the women scholars first, Dr. Alexandra Stein and Dr. Janja Lalich, who talks about bounded control. And those were more useful for me because women understand cults better than men who have experienced them as well, because they experienced it at a deeper level, which also then led me to realize that someone like me, former cult baby, grown in a cult, children are more oppressed than women in cults. So when you grow up and then you become a cult expert, you have an additional perspective. We understand it just a little deeper. But going back to cults are patriarchal, right? It's about owning and control and coercion and getting your labor. And even when women lead the cult is still patriarchal. And we see the same thing that we see when women lead regular organizations in the patriarchy. They have to work harder to get there, and we celebrate more when they fall. See Marissa Mayer with Yahoo. See Elizabeth Holmes walking away from Theranos with jail time. Deserved. But Adam Newman walking away from the WeWork scam with $1 billion. I'm Danielle, a scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership. I've written one book that is out called Uncultured, about growing up in the Children of God religious cult and going into the cult of the U.S. Army. You can get signed copies of that here, or listen to me read it to you on Spotify Premium. Really think it gives a perspective on what's going on in our country right now. Which brings me to the second book that maybe you've watched me work on for 3 years, finally on pre-sale today, coming out January 20th, where we really look at all of this stuff in depth. Check that out. You can get the packages tagged here or there if you're watching us on TikTok.